My doctor told me this is a safe medicine. I said, it is not a safe medicine. I just called a friend of mine. It has a multitude of side effects. I mean, the last end result of this is death.
Started with something that seemed ordinary, a few sleepless nights. But what followed would become a dangerous cycle that slowly took control.
Now I can't move. It keeps me from sleeping at night. I can't sleep at night.
At first, it looked like a solution. Quiet rooms, controlled medication, and a body finally getting rest. But beneath the silence, something was falling apart. While the world prepared for his return to the stage, his nights had become a battle between sleep and sedation.
Michael Jackson was a drug addict, and he was a master at manipulation because I was manipulated by Michael. I did not enable him.
With every dose, the line between treatment and dependency became harder to recognize. Time began to blur, and control slowly slipped away without warning. Then, in one unguarded moment, everything changed. What was meant to be medical care became a desperate emergency. The final decline had begun. In Michael Jackson's last weeks, a worsening battle with insomnia became the center of his daily struggle. Unable to achieve natural sleep, his bedroom was transformed into a private medical environment, surrounded by equipment, medications, and constant supervision from his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray. Night after night, the same desperate routine continued. Sedatives were administered in an attempt to bring rest, but true recovery never came. By morning, exhaustion remained, made even heavier by the intense pressure of preparing for the This Is It comeback tour. The world was waiting for his return to the stage, while behind closed doors, his body was fighting a battle no one could see.
My final show performances in London.
When every other attempt failed, Jackson turned to what he called his milk, propofol, a powerful anesthetic normally used in controlled medical environments. But what appeared to be sleep was something far different. It was not the natural recovery the body needs. It was a medically induced state of unconsciousness. The more this cycle continued, the harder it became to separate rest from sedation. What was supposed to be a solution for sleepless nights had slowly transformed into a dangerous dependence on medication. His body appeared calm on the outside, but beneath that silence, the strain was building until it reached a breaking point. Then came the moment that changed everything. Inside the bedroom, the quiet routine suddenly became a medical emergency. According to testimony from Dr. Conrad Murray, Michael Jackson was found unresponsive and not breathing. The atmosphere changed instantly. What had been a night of attempted rest became a desperate fight for survival. CPR began as emergency efforts replaced the silence of the room. Every second became critical as calls for help were made, and paramedics were contacted. The questions that followed would later become central to the investigation. How long had he been unresponsive? What happened during those final moments? And could the outcome have been different? The final night inside the Holmby Hills mansion would later become one of the most examined moments in entertainment history. According to court testimony, the hours before his collapse involved repeated attempts to manage his insomnia through medication. The timeline revealed a desperate progression. Earlier in the night, medications were administered in an attempt to help him rest. But sleep remained out of reach. As morning approached, exhaustion continued to build while the pressure of preparing for the This Is It comeback tour remained over him. By the final hours, the search for sleep had become something far more complicated, a struggle between a body demanding rest and a treatment approach that carried serious risks.
The flow of air into Michael Jackson's lungs have just turned off the propofol infusion.
The hours between 10:50 a.m. and noon remain one of the most questioned parts of that final morning. Inside the mansion, the exact sequence of events became unclear, with conflicting accounts creating uncertainty around what happened during those crucial minutes. But one fact remained undeniable. The search for natural sleep had failed. What began as an attempt to find rest had turned into a dangerous cycle of increasing medication, fading control, and a situation that had moved far beyond ordinary treatment. Then came the announcement that stopped the world. News from a Los Angeles hospital spread across the globe, leaving millions of fans in disbelief. After suffering cardiac arrest at his home, Michael Jackson was transported to Ronald Reagan Ucla Medical Center, where doctors immediately began a desperate battle to save his life. Inside the emergency room, medical teams worked through every available procedure, using advanced equipment and continuous monitoring in an attempt to restore his condition. Every effort was made, every possibility was explored, and specialists continued fighting against the clock. But despite the intensive treatment and repeated attempts at resuscitation, there was no meaningful recovery. The condition that had brought him to the hospital proved impossible to reverse.
The legendary king of pop, Michael Jackson, passed away on Thursday.
At 2:26 p.m., after every attempt to save him had been exhausted, Michael Jackson was officially pronounced dead. Within minutes, the news traveled across the world. Television networks interrupted programming, fans gathered outside the hospital in disbelief, and millions struggled to accept that one of music's greatest icons was gone. But even after the announcement, questions remained. Behind the tragedy was a short but crucial window inside the Holmby Hills bedroom, a period that would later become one of the most closely examined moments in the entire case. According to testimony from Dr. Conrad Murray, Jackson was in a medically induced sleep state when the situation began to change. During those critical moments, Murray briefly left the room to make personal and business-related phone calls, leaving Jackson without direct observation while powerful medications were still active. That brief absence would later become a major focus of the investigation and courtroom discussions. When Murray returned, he found Jackson unresponsive and immediately began efforts to determine what had happened and seek emergency assistance. The question that followed was no longer only about what caused his death, but about what happened in those final moments before the world lost Michael Jackson.
Heard the doctor tell in his own voice what happened the day Michael Jackson died.
The exact sequence of events during those final minutes was later pieced together through phone records, witness statements, and courtroom testimony. Yet even after the investigation, some details remained heavily debated. What started as an attempt to control severe insomnia had transformed into a medical crisis. With powerful anesthetic medications involved, constant monitoring was considered essential. But during this critical period, that level of supervision was not maintained. That gap in oversight became one of the most examined aspects of the case. A situation that was meant to provide relief had suddenly become a moment where every second mattered. Behind the closed doors of the bedroom, a decision involving propofol would become the center of the investigation. According to court testimony, the medication was being used as part of an effort to help manage Jackson's ongoing struggle with sleep. Propofol is a powerful anesthetic typically used in controlled medical environments because it can rapidly affect consciousness and breathing. In hospital settings, its use requires careful monitoring and immediate access to emergency support. But inside the mansion, the circumstances were far different from a clinical environment. Medical experts later questioned whether the necessary safeguards were present, especially with other sedating medications also involved. Dr. Conrad Murray maintained that the dosage was carefully adjusted based on Jackson's condition. However, during later proceedings, experts argued that using such a powerful combination of medications outside a fully equipped medical setting created serious risks. The room remained quiet, but the situation had already crossed into dangerous territory, a moment that would later redefine the final hours of Michael Jackson's life.
I wanted to illustrate the way Dr. Murray would have given.
Let's just testify.
The combination of powerful sedatives with a surgical anesthetic created a situation medical experts later described as extremely dangerous. The room may have appeared calm, but medically, it had become unstable. What happened inside that bedroom would eventually become the center of one of the most closely watched investigations in modern entertainment history. The case did not end with the tragedy. It moved into a courtroom. In 2011, Dr. Conrad Murray faced trial in the case that would become known as People v. Murray. Prosecutors argued that the treatment decisions made in Michael Jackson's final hours represented a serious departure from accepted medical standards. During the trial, experts examined the use of propofol in a private residence, the lack of hospital-level monitoring, the timeline of events, and the decisions made during the emergency. Investigators reconstructed those final hours using phone records, witness accounts, and medical evidence. The defense suggested that Jackson may have taken medication himself, but prosecutors and forensic experts challenged that argument by examining the toxicology results and the interaction between the drugs involved. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached its decision. Conrad Murray was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, a verdict that sparked worldwide discussion about medical responsibility, celebrity care, and the limits of trust between doctor and patient. But even after the verdict, questions surrounding that morning continued. One phone call would soon become a symbol of the confusion and unanswered questions surrounding Michael Jackson's final moments. On June 26, 2009, the 911 recording from the mansion was released, turning a private medical emergency into a global controversy.
Okay, let's get him down to the floor. I'm gonna help you with CPR right now, okay?
We need him to get, we need a
Just while you're on our way there.
The release of the 911 call opened a new chapter of questions surrounding Michael Jackson's final moments. What should have been a routine emergency response quickly became the subject of intense public scrutiny. Investigators examined every detail, from the location where CPR was performed to the timeline of the emergency call. Questions were raised about whether proper procedures were followed and whether critical minutes were lost during the response. According to testimony, confusion inside the home added to the uncertainty. Phone records and witness accounts later became key pieces in reconstructing what happened during those final moments before paramedics arrived. At approximately 12:26 p.m., emergency responders reached the mansion. The quiet neighborhood suddenly became the center of a desperate race against time. Paramedics found Michael Jackson in cardiac arrest and immediately began advanced life support. Every available measure was attempted as the medical team fought to restore vital signs. The response continued from the mansion to the ambulance and onward to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center. But despite continuous efforts, no meaningful recovery was recorded during transport. While emergency crews fought to save his life, another image from just one night earlier would later take on a heartbreaking meaning. On June 24, 2009, inside the Staples Center, Michael Jackson walked onto the stage for what would become his final rehearsal. To those watching, he appeared ready for his long-awaited return. His movements were precise, his performance carried emotion, and the energy of the comeback was still alive. But behind that performance was a level of exhaustion that few people could see. That night, during rehearsals for This Is It, Jackson performed with the intensity of someone determined to prove he was still the world's greatest entertainer. After midnight, the rehearsal finally ended. He said goodbye to members of the production team and planned to return the following day. But that return never happened. Hours later, the stage that was supposed to welcome his comeback remained empty. The final rehearsal became something far more than a performance. It became the last public glimpse of a legend before the world lost him. But behind closed doors, another disturbing detail was about to emerge. Months earlier, private recordings made inside Jackson's bedroom would later become a major focus of attention. In one recording, Jackson appeared heavily sedated and struggled to speak clearly, yet his words revealed something unexpected. Even in that vulnerable state, his thoughts were not focused on fame or money. He spoke about helping sick children and creating a place where those without access to care could receive treatment. The recording showed a different side of Michael Jackson, not only a global superstar, but a person still thinking about helping others despite his own private struggles.
Had no childhood. I feel their pain. I feel their hurt.
The recording later became one of the most discussed pieces of evidence in the case. It revealed a disturbing picture of Michael Jackson's condition during his final weeks, a person struggling physically while remaining surrounded by intense medical intervention. The audio showed signs of extreme vulnerability, raising questions about the decisions being made behind closed doors. Why the recordings were created and what purpose they served was never fully explained during the trial, but they became part of the larger investigation into Jackson's final days. The evidence painted a picture of someone caught between a desperate search for relief and a medical routine that had become increasingly complicated. Then came the findings that would challenge many of the rumors surrounding his physical condition. The autopsy revealed more than 50 documented injection sites across different areas of Michael Jackson's body, including his arms, hips, thighs, and shoulders. According to medical findings, these marks reflected repeated medical treatment rather than evidence of recreational drug use. The examination provided a more complex picture than the headlines that had surrounded him after his death. Years of performances, injuries, chronic pain, and ongoing medical treatment had left physical signs that told a story the public rarely saw. Early reports painted an image of extreme physical decline, but the official autopsy revealed a different reality. Jackson weighed approximately 136 pounds on a 5'9" frame, thin, but not the exaggerated figure that some reports had suggested. The final medical picture was not one of a fallen superstar, but of a person whose body had endured years of pressure, performance, pain, and treatment behind the spotlight.
Distribution of the infusion set. It wouldn't just be, as was found at the crime scene.
However, the official report revealed a reality far different from the rumors that had spread after his death. The examination found no solid food in his stomach, only a small amount of dark fluid and traces of medication. The findings showed a body under significant medical strain, but not the extreme physical collapse that many early reports had claimed. He was fragile, but the truth was more complicated than the headlines suggested. Behind the image of a global superstar was a person dealing with years of physical pressure, medical challenges, and a treatment routine that had become increasingly concerning. Then came the final toxicology conclusion. After weeks of investigation and medical analysis, officials reached the determination that would define the case. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner classified Michael Jackson's death as a homicide caused by acute propofol intoxication. The toxicology report identified propofol, a powerful anesthetic normally used in controlled medical settings, as the primary substance responsible. Other medications, including sedatives from the benzodiazepine family, were also detected in his system. Investigators concluded that the combination of these substances created a dangerous level of respiratory suppression. The concern was not only the medications themselves, but the environment in which they were administered. Unlike a hospital setting, the bedroom where the treatment occurred did not have the full range of continuous monitoring and emergency support systems normally associated with the use of powerful anesthetics. The final medical findings transformed a worldwide mystery into a case centered on one critical question: how did a treatment intended to provide rest become the cause of a tragedy?
300 milligrams of lidocaine, which is, again, a huge dose and could be just toxic of itself.
Medical examiners concluded that the combined effects of the medications severely affected Jackson's breathing, leading to a fatal outcome. The final determination was clear. His death was not the result of a natural condition, but a drug-related tragedy that occurred in an environment without the level of medical safeguards normally required for such powerful substances. But beyond the courtroom and the headlines, the autopsy revealed another story, one hidden beneath decades of fame and performance. The examination showed evidence of repeated medical intervention over time, including multiple marks consistent with intravenous access for medications and fluids. These findings did not tell the story of a man defined by drugs. but of someone whose body had been placed under years of medical strain and ongoing treatment. The report also revealed conditions that affected the performer behind the legend. Degenerative changes in his spine and joints suggested that the physical demands of his career may have become increasingly difficult, even as audiences continued to expect perfection from him. Additional findings pointed to other long-term health issues that required medical management. Together, these discoveries painted a picture of a life that looked effortless on stage, but required significant support behind closed doors. Perhaps one of the most surprising findings was that Michael Jackson's heart was considered relatively strong, challenging assumptions that his body had completely failed. However, examination of his lungs revealed abnormalities that may have affected breathing capacity and physical endurance. For an artist known for intense performances and impossible movements, even small reductions in stamina could have created a greater burden than the public ever realized. The final medical picture was not simply the story of a superstar's death. It was the story of a human being carrying years of pressure, pain, expectation, and private struggles while continuing to perform for the world. Michael Jackson's final days shocked millions and brought a tragic ending to the life of one of music's most influential figures. But beyond the controversy, the legacy remained. The music, the performances, and the cultural impact he created continue to live on, ensuring that the King of Pop remains remembered long after his final performance ended.